Alden Boyd, Gerald Massey. And you'll see evidence that the Hebrew alphabet, with its 22 letters, originally is taken from Egypt, and before that from Ireland, and before that, Atlantis. Christianity came from Judaism, right? But it's never really been truly divulged before. The word Hebrew and Jew for deceptive purposes has been given to a people of Aramaic race. And it's a misnomer to call the people today the modern so-called Jews. The Aramaic race. Connor McDory mentions this in his book called The Bible, an Irish book. He goes on to say Hebrew was a secret dialect which was put together, devised by the Irish priesthood of Druids to preserve their secret lore and their secret rituals. It was used to keep the knowledge exclusively for the priests. That was their way of keeping all the knowledge of sacred things secret from the uninitiated, the unclean, the unwashed, the average guy. The one not of royal lineage. And it was taken over and made use of by the Roman Catholic Church to conceal and to make believable the secret fraud the Illuminati have perpetrated on the Christian world. Connor McDory goes even further to say Hebrew was never spoken by the Aramaic people of Syria, the so-called Jews, or by the people of any other countries. It was used by the ancient Irish priesthood of Lessa, exactly the same way that Latin was used in the Catholic Church to keep the secrets from their followers. Spaceman AM 640, Toronto Radio, on A View from Space. The origin of the word Hebrew. Although the name Hebrew used for the language of the Bible belongs to the period of the Bible's formation, the name Hebrew used as a name for a race of people goes a lot farther back. Related words show up in Sumerian, Babylonian, Egyptian texts in the form of the words I've told you about. Haperu, Aperu. These words refer to individuals and groups who were not accepted within the accepted political structures of patronage, alliances, and loyalties that governed societies. They were outlaws, the tribe of Dan, who were rejected by God, who turned into the warlike tribe of the Hyksos, who had horses to ride as tanks, weaponry, who circumnavigated the globe, and that's why you see their churches in every place there is. First the ships to get there, to navigate there, coming out of the sea as gods, and then once onto the land, taming the horses, and using the horses as their power to dominate the people on the land. Just as their ancestors of Atlantis did, in Poseidon as their leader. That's why Poseidon is the god of the seas, known as the god of the seas, the god of earthquakes, and the god of horses. That's why we have horsepower in our cars. Their bloodline, existing today, runs all the car companies. Hebrew, their name, denotes no racial or tribal identity. It means nomads. the Hebrew, were established in Canaan, having reached it long before from Babylon on the far side. That describes the Hyksos, the tribe of Dan, the ones who were rejected, the ones who are in control today, the ones who are corrupting our judicial system, the ones who are corrupting our moral society. The initiated who passed through the inferior grades and attained the high rank of autops or eyewitnesses were called by the whole pagan world Israelites and Hebrews. The name Israelite, Jew, or Hebrews did never designate a political or a national group of people, but was the name from which, from an infinitely remote antiquity, were called the Rechabites, the Autops, the Uberlects, to signify the highest order of the initiated in these holy mysteries, and who alone were committed to the oracles of God. Oracles meaning the ones who could tell your future, the men who could tell the future. And who can really do that? Spaceman. It's a view from space on AM 640, Toronto Radio.
This is A View from Space with the Spaceman, AM 640, Toronto Radio. Opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect those of AM 640, Toronto Radio. History buffs, monarchists masticate, truth seekers cheer. He's the Spaceman with A View from Space, AM 640, Toronto Radio.
Hi, welcome in. This is AM 640, Toronto Radio. I'm the Spaceman. It's A View from Space. I want to welcome you in if you're listening on your car radio at work or driving around town, or if you're listening on Star Choice, Channel 865. If you're listening on Rogers Cable at 96.9 FM. Also soon to be available on, okay, I'll say it, Expressview. Wherever you are in the world, I welcome you in. I've been talking for the past couple of segments about the word Hebrew, and it was never actually given to a group of people. It was actually a hidden word that was changed, and the meaning changed to mean something else. Hebrew, in short, is the language which allows men to pass from one meaning to another, which explains, interprets, gives the allegorical meaning. By Hebrews, therefore, Moses did not mean the Israelites, but men. Israelites or Egyptians who were schooled in the Hebrew language and in the knowledge of Ambras, the initiated, and the initiators. The Hebrews were outlaws. That's where the word came from. Valencia Straighten, author of The Celestial Ship of the North, in that book says, the Jewish glyph and Hebrew language are not original but are borrowed from the Egyptian or Druid and are considered sacred symbols and myths of the Egyptians and their gods. And it was not more than a couple of weeks ago I was describing how the Illuminati sees Jesus Christ. It was during a few shows that I was doing on the Da Vinci Code, which actually compares Jesus Christ to Osiris, the god of the dead, and how they run almost parallel, all with the same person, because each era, each passing age has a Christ. And we're coming to the end or close of this age, which I believe they're going to mark at around 2012, the end of the Mayan calendar, to another new age, which means another Christ will appear. This is what I believe the Illuminati are getting us ready for. New age, which means another Christ will appear. This is what I believe the Illuminati are getting us ready for. And no, there's no stopping it. You know what the high druids used to do? They'd observe the surrounding skies, the heavens, to estimate which stars or constellations of importance were prominent. Then the town or locale would be named and founded on that celestial talisman. Great energy went into this. And now that we're around the World Cup and we see so many flags flying around these days, some of them you're starting to notice now, and actually know which countries they represent. Well, this is why so many national and state flags and seals, as well as heraldic insignias and coats of arms, feature stars and chevrons and strange hybrid animals. These hybrid animals was to represent certain zodiacal houses. Everything on the national flags that you see in this World Cup or anywhere else in our world has to do with the ancient knowledge of the heavens, the skies, not politics. If you really and truly want to know the absolute truth, politics is occultism. Everything is hidden and behind closed doors. All the symbols are embodied in the politicians' moves and decisions, and in their logos. The Liberal government is changing our trillium, this insignia of Ontario, to a triangle. Yeah, a pyramid. Of course. Speaking of symbols, I urge you right now, if you're listening to me on AM 640 Toronto Radio, to Google the Queen of England's Royal Coat of Arms and take a very close look at it. The Queen of England's Royal Coat of Arms. You'll find the belt surrounding the shield has the motto of the Order of the Garter, which I'm sure you've heard. It's written in French, but it actually is translated to "Shame on him who evil thinks." Other interpretation is "Shame on him who thinks of it as evil." In other words, the best offense is a defense. Or the best defense is an offense in this case. The motto at the bottom of her crest says, "Dieu est mon droit," which means God and my right. Actually, really, truthfully, it means God and my birthright. Also contained in this coat of arms is the Lion of the tribe of Judah in the preeminent right-hand position, wearing the crown. The unicorn placed on the opposite side of the heraldic crest, giving it equal stature with the lion. On the left side, the left-hand path, the path of black magic. The unicorn is a symbol for the Antichrist. It's a horse with a horn growing out of its pineal gland, right between the eyes. That's where the Hindus put their caste mark dot. And it's the gland that supposedly is called the third eye and is long enough to have, thought to have, mystical powers, inner vision. This is what the Antichrist will have, the power of black magic. Power, in fact, so heavy-duty that he will be able to perform miracles that is also woven in with technology. And the marvels that we can do today with technology mixed with black magic will be incredibly eye-catching, mind-boggling, astounding. And the Harp of David, it's at the bottom of the coat of arms, recognizes the Davidic covenant and symbolizes the marriage of the two lines of Judah in Ireland through Jeremiah. That is the Queen of England and of Canada's heraldic coat of arms. Now you tell me they have nothing to do with the House of David, or the Middle East, or Solomon's Temple, or the Twin Towers, or terrorism. You know, the House of Lancaster and York, the House of York, used red and white roses. I've had this on the show before. Roses represent royalty. Red and white roses are the balance of red and white is Ida and Pingala, feminine and masculine alchemy. Red and white, springs of Avalon, the balance of inner and outer worlds. That's what Avalon was, King Arthur's perfect kingdom, the perfect one-world government with one king leading all the subjects. The balance of inner and outer worlds, feminine and masculine, red and white. The unconscious and conscious mind. Now you know why it's red, white, and blue for the Union Jack. It's the balance of inner and outer worlds, feminine and masculine. The war, called the Battle of the Roses, fought by the House of Lancaster and the House of York, was really the battle that decided which side would decide the path. It's the Spaceman. This is A View from Space. Coming back with more on AM 640 Toronto Radio.
This is A View from Space with the Spaceman. AM 640 Toronto Radio. You're listening to A View from Space with the Spaceman, exercising the right to free speech while he still can. AM 640 Toronto Radio.
I'm Space. It's A View from Space. This is AM 640 Toronto Radio. The United Kingdom Queen Elizabeth official title is Elizabeth II by the grace of God of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and her other realms and territories Queen, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith. What faith? Judaism? Christianity? Of course. She's the head of the Anglican Church. Her bloodline is the tribe of Dan. And Prince Charles has remarked recently that it should be actually defender of the faiths, add an S, plural, leaving out no religion, blending them all into the coming New World religion, Luciferianism, or devil worship. The word Celt, it's another word for Israelite. Celtish, British Israelites by birth. People of the covenant for the Torah and the Bible and the Ark. And the word British isn't even English. What is it? Well, it's Hebrew. Ibrach. Hebrew. Brit. Beret means covenant in Hebrew and in Welsh. Ish, I-S-H, means man or people of in Hebrew and English. So put Brit and Ish together and you get the word British, meaning the people of the covenant. In other words, the people, Israel, of the covenant. That's why Jacob's stone, Jacob's pillar, has been a part of the coronation of every British monarch. Jacob, Israel's fourth son, was called Judah, had twin sons called Zerah, the other Pharez. You can find this in Genesis 38. You want to follow along here. When the twins were due to be born, Zerah put his hand out of the womb first, and the midwife tied a red cord around his wrist to mark the firstborn and the one with a legitimate birthright. But Zerah, of the red hand, still in the womb, pulled his hand back, and his brother Pharez was born first. And so Zerah was born second, and his birthright was taken from him and given to Pharez. The name Pharez in Hebrew actually means breach. Because Zerah lost his birthright, he went into exile into Iberia, Heberia, the Hebrews' land, and built Zaragoza, which means stronghold of Zara. Iberia, by the way, is ancient Spain, and drove the Zarahites of the Red Hand to the north of Spain to Galicia and Biscay. And many left Iberia, and sailed to Hibernia, the Hebrews' new land. Hibernia, Ireland. Yeah. Hibernia is all about oil now, isn't it? Well, that's where the name came from for the area where there's oil. And yes, the infamous Red Brigades, who have just signed a peace declaration in Spain, are from the Zarites of the Red Hand. That's why, the Red Brigades, get it? Also, if you've noticed, Madonna. Also, if you've noticed, Britney Spears, at one time, were flouting their Kabbalistic views on the late-night talk shows. And on their wrist was the red piece of string tied around their wrist. And this is exactly the red cord around the wrist of Zara, is what they were telling you. They were showcasing Zara of the Red Hand and Pharez and the breach in Hebrew, because one day those two families are going to come back together and give us the Christ. So say the Illuminati, and they're going to make sure it happens. In Jerusalem, from Zara's brother Pharez came the line of David and Solomon, whose symbol is the Star of David. Started the show with it. I hope you caught it. The Star of David, or more accurately, the Seal of Solomon, is, are you ready? On the Ulster flag. See for yourself. Google Ulster flag pic, and you will be shocked to find a red hand and the Star of David, what? On an Irish flag? Yes. Which will prove the validity of what I've been saying all the time. See for yourself. Ulster flag pic. You'll see the Star of David. You'll see the red hand. So how did the Star of David come to Ireland and find its way onto the Ulster flag? Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon overthrew King Zedekiah of Jerusalem from the line of David in 588 BC, and Jeremiah the prophet took Zedekiah's daughter, called Tefi. Jacob's pillar, the stone of destiny, the stone of Scone, the coronation stone, and the Ark of the Covenant were taken from Jerusalem via Tanis in Egypt. This is what the Raiders of the Lost Ark film covers. They were taken through Gibraltar, Galicia, Cornwall, England, and brought to Ireland for safekeeping. So the story goes. With the help of the prophet Jeremiah, one of the last surviving members of the royalty of the House of David, a princess of Israel, Tefi, came to Ireland by way of Egypt. She married the High King of Ireland. They both reigned, passing on the Israelites and Gnostic Druid ascend teaching and traditions. The legend is she's buried somewhere at Tara in Ireland, along with the Ark of the Covenant. According to the legend, it's recovery from Tefi's tomb on the hill of the Torah, or Tara, will bring permanent peace to Ulster and Ireland, and to the world. Barry Dunford was a guy who wrote a book called Scotland's Past Links with Ancient Egypt. He says that Tefi was actually an Egyptian princess. Most likely she was one that belonged to Israel and Egypt, as the Hyksos ruled in Egypt as well. She was the bloodline of the Hyksos. And according to the ancient Scots, they tell the story of the origin of the Scottish people as coming from the lineage of an Egyptian pharaoh's daughter named Princess Scota. More on that in a moment. You're listening to A View from Space. It's AM 640, Toronto Radio. Back with more in a minute.
This is A View from Space with the Spaceman. AM 640, Toronto Radio. You can watch the expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect those of AM 640 Toronto Radio. The ancient mystery religions, numerology, the Holy Grail decoded, and he goes deeper than a black hole in today's headlines. This is A View from Space with the Spaceman. AM 640, Toronto Radio.
Spaceman, AM 640, Toronto Radio. Tracing the lineage of the Egyptian princess Tia Tethi all the way to Ireland, the place of her burial. According to the ancient Scots, the ancient history of the origin of the Scottish people came from the lineage of this Egyptian pharaoh's daughter named Scota, who lived around 1500 BC. The old Irish historical documents support this same tradition, saying that Scota came to Ireland via Spain from Egypt. The bloodline of Cain traced. Even today there's a place in Scotland named after her called Glen Scota. The descendants of Scota migrated to Scotland through Spain. And this is where, at around 300 BC they did this, this is where the Scots royal lineage actually came from. Mary, Queen of Scots, Bloody Mary. The lineage from the ancient Egyptian pharaoh's daughter, Princess Scota. And it's said that Tia Tethi, the Queen of Israel in Gibraltar, landed at Howth. And we've just passed the anniversary, June 18th, 583 BC. She traveled to Tara, where she met Eoch, Ida, the High King of Ireland, on June 21st, just passed, 2 days ago. He was from the bloodline of Judah, Zara, of the Red Hand. And Tia Tethi was from the line of David. And when they married, they sealed the breach, because hundreds of years before, when Judah's twin sons were born. Check out the Ulster flag. There's your proof. The red hand prominently displayed right in the middle of the flag inside the Star of David with their marriage union. You now have the red hand mounted on the Star of David under, look carefully at the Ulster flag, the single crown, symbolizing the union of the two royal lines, which came from Judah. And they're on the flag of Ulster. So now you know the Ulstermen are not Gentiles, but Israelites descended from Judah, who was Jacob, Israel's fourth son. British is not English, but Hebrew in origin. It means the people of the covenant, or in other words, the people of Israel. And the Union Jack is called the Union Jack because it's the flag of the Union of Jacob. The Union Jack, the Union of Jacob. The entire conspiracy of that family is in their flag. The British-Israeli people of the covenant that is buried inside the Ark of the Covenant of the Hill of Terah in Comith. This is going to be one of those archaeological digs I've been speaking about on A View from Space on AM 640 Toronto Radio that will prove all religions are wrong and will provide the lies of the Illuminati and make like they're actually true. New archaeological discovery proves beyond a shadow of doubt that, and they will do just that. Trust me. And Christianity and Judaism will come down like a house of cards. giving way to the occult world of Sir Francis Bacon. And the rising of Atlantis to bring back the Golden Age. Remember the most quoted line in the movie The Da Vinci Code? A secret so powerful that if revealed, it threatened to devastate the very foundation of Christianity. Well, in the movie production and promotion of this movie, The Da Vinci Code, Sir Ian McClellan says the line, the original source in the novel, the book, on page 247 in the special illustrated edition, has Tebin saying, a secret so powerful that if revealed, it threatened to devastate the very foundation of mankind. Did you find this interesting in the previews, the movie? McClellan actually says mankind instead of Christianity. Here again is the Illuminati's taking in of all humanity into its line, not just those who believe in Christianity, because devastating the very foundation of Christianity? No, it's even more powerful to say it threatens to devastate the very foundation of mankind. So the word was changed. But in the book it said Christianity. And that was the most quoted statement of the entire Da Vinci phenomenon. So that's really basically all that they wanted to impart to you. In other words, it was a warning that soon they will be presenting evidence that will be so astounding that it will change the way we think about religion. And that's all they want to say for now. Spaceman, AM 640, Toronto Radio, A View from Space. When the Ark of the Covenant is dug up from maybe Tea Tephi's tomb in the hill of Tara, I don't know, it will bring permanent peace to Ulster and Ireland, and its fulfillment of the prophecy. Because there is a prophecy that says a permanent peace will be brought to Ulster and Ireland, and they will be together again. And I was talking about that earlier in the show. The people of Southern Ireland are not Gentiles either. They've been wrongly taught by the Vatican, who wanted them to be Catholic, but are also Israelites, descended from Judah's brother Dan, the fifth of Jacob, Israel's sons, and were known as the Tuatha Danann, the tribe of Dan. The Illuminati believe when all the people of Ireland realize and accept their Israeli roots and reject both of the false religions that pass under, and their false religions are Christianity and Judaism, that they will learn the true teachings and learn to keep the covenant they all swore at Sinai to keep forever. So how could there be anything else but peace? And guess what? I've been telling you about the 7s and the 8s lately, buried in our newscasts and our news stories. Numerology. Weaving the web of black magic spell. And black magic, albeit, is magic, all right, but magic is simply this: convincing you that something is happening when it's not. That's magic. That's all it is. Coming up, one of the big reasons why 7 is appearing constantly now. This is AM 640, Toronto Radio, and A View from Space.
This is A View from Space with the Spaceman, AM 640, Toronto Radio. The Argonauts. Deprogramming the brainwashed simply by uncovering the truth. He's the Spaceman with A View from Space, AM 640, Toronto Radio.
I'm Space. This is A View from Space on AM 640, Toronto Radio. So, the Illuminati believe in numerology. 7 and 8 are the numbers that have been used over and over. Like the G8. You know, they call it the G8 meetings, G8 summit. G is the 7th letter in the alphabet. And it's called the G8. There you have the hidden 7 and 8. Why? The 888 is the Christ. And we know there are 7 wonders of the world. There's 7 days of the week. There's the 7 seas. And there's the 7th millennium, referring roughly to the present millennium that we're in now. Starting at about, some say 1979, some say 1999, some say 2001, or some milestone date close to that. It refers to the beginning of the human urbanization and writing and recorded history, which is dated as having begun over 6,000, but under 6,500 years ago. It's a deliberate attempt to avoid cultural bias in long-term dates, like how old is the world? Well, billions. See, interestingly, the 7th millennium is generally acceptable to Christians who accept the very short history of the world, who say creation would only go back to 4004 BC, by some estimates. Some suspect the term for this reason. Others consider it a happy coincidence of written records and the biblical record that reduces the least rational argument and attracts those who believe in creationism. Some spirit created all of this. For them, it would emphasize the common roots in Adam, Eve, and Noah, rather than the cultural and religious distinctions that came later. The words 7th millennium may have been coined specifically to focus on human common origins. We're all from the same place, but you didn't expect from where, because we're all from outer space. Who came to Earth long ago and changed the DNA. And now we're trying to change it back to get back to the garden, as they call it. Paradise. Eternal life. The use of the 7th millennium is the most common among the secular futurists and those who consider themselves to be world citizens. Let's call them what they are. Occult New Agers believe in the 7th millennium. These people have an agenda of technological globalization, then political globalization, then religious globalization. The New World Order. And now, as it turns out, with a little bit of hindsight, we can now better understand the prediction of Nostradamus. The year, he said, 1999. Or thereabouts, in the 7th month. From heaven will come a great king of terror, alarm, warning. Prophet Elijah, see the Old Testament book of Malachi, chapter 4. He'll bring back to life the great king of Israel, Christ, from the tribe of Joseph Ephraim. That's recorded in Genesis 49, King James Version of the Bible. Before the warning, World Trade Center attack, and after the Third World War, Armageddon, reigns in good God's time, called the 7th or the Sabbath millennium. That was no far off. It was 2001. Well, he said the 7th month. Guess what? July is the 7th month. But September, which we call is the 9th month now, sept in French means what? Sept is 7 in French. And of course, if you study the history of time, we didn't have the 12 months that we have today. And September was actually the 7th month in Nostradamus' time. So how did Nostradamus know about the future? Well, he didn't. What they did is they wrote down a plan on how to set up a one world government, a new world order, about how many generations it would take. And Nostradamus was part of that plan of writing it down, and they're just merely following the plan. So they look at Nostradamus' writing and it's going, well, it's time. Let's get the terrorists out and let's get this thing rolling. That's what's going on in your world. I'm telling you, the Illuminati control this world by 3 things: sacred geometry, astrology, and numerology. They do nothing until the stars are aligned. Then they pack their numbers into it for maximum power of their occult spell. And today, with the media wired like it is, and the internet wired like it is, you can program people so quickly, lightning fast, using buzzwords. If before September 11th, 2001, I said these 2 words, you wouldn't have no idea what I was talking about. There would be no connection. If I said buildings, planes, absolutely nothing. Now we're all brainwashed, totally brainwashed. Just about anywhere in the world you go after 9/11, 2001, you can say planes and buildings, and they will immediately have a mental picture of a 727 hitting the World Trade Center. That is classic brainwashing. The latest one that they're putting you through is homegrown terrorism. They've only used it twice now, once in Toronto and now once in Miami, where they arrested 7 alleged terrorists. Same exact story as the Toronto one. The family members are going, they're kids. What? They're kids. They couldn't conspire to wage war against the United States of America? No weapons were found, no explosives were found. They just picked up 7 guys. Why? Because some undercover cop set them up and got them to say the right thing. And then you trot out the Attorney General Gonzalez, that yes man of George W.'s, to give it credence and power, and say it was thwarted. Well, just a week earlier in the United States, they were talking about a book that was released, and if you didn't pay close attention, you would have thought that the subway in the United States, New York City, last weekend was about to be have a chemical attack. But if you listen more carefully, you'll find that no, it was a book that was released, and it was in 2003 that the plot was thwarted. So you don't have to do it any longer. They just have to say we've stopped it before it happened. And it's almost tantamount to an attack where they can go change their rules, change their laws, and take away your freedoms. By just simply stating what might have happened. How's that for brainwashing? How's that for complicity? I mean, they're playing us like a piano. And is there anyone besides this show and a couple of internet sites that are saying, wait a minute, let's question how these people are being arrested? Where's the evidence? And how concrete is it? It's the Spaceman. It's a view from space. That's all on AM 640 Toronto Radio.
This is A View from Space with the Spaceman, AM 640, Toronto Radio.
Spaceman back on A View from Space. This is AM 640 Toronto Radio. Let's go back to the telephone call. I believe it was John. John, yes, sorry for the interruption there. Go right ahead. Sorry.
Hi, Spaceman. You mentioned something about Attorney General Alberto Gonzalez, Bush's raid. He's Bush's top attorney in the U.S. He's actually the top attorney in the United States. You mentioned that he takes away the rights of freedom since there's terrorist attacks, so the U.S. thinks they could do whatever they want, taking away the rights of freedom. I disagree.
No, I didn't say Gonzalez was doing anything of the kind.
Maybe I misunderstood what you said. So I wasn't sure. It sounded like you're saying that
because it isn't Gonzalez that does those things. Those are executive orders, and Gonzalez just is the yes man who just goes and fills it out and gets it done.
Right. So
he doesn't give the order.
Right.
Oh, okay. So. Don't care about it. Well, then if you don't care about it, then it's not a freedom for you. But for other people, it's a freedom.
But we're doing it for the security of our country.
No, you're not.
Of course, Bush is. What's his reason for doing it then? Think he wants to hear what other people are?
No, he wants to find out who. No, he wants to find out who are going to be complicit in the New World Order and who is not.
Well, he's not that stupid. I don't think Republicans.
Why do you think we had a 55-page or even longer census here in Canada? First time ever that we tendered it out to another company. Guess who did the Canadian census this year, sir? Lockheed Martin, a weapons manufacturer. What do they want all this information for? And they say it is absolutely strictly confidential. Yeah, but I mean, you got the fox counting how many chickens there are, sir.
So what's his
IBM is also online with this Canadian census. You know what IBM did in the days leading up to the Second World War for Adolf Hitler? They invented the machine to be able information for. And they say it is absolutely strictly confidential. Yeah, but I mean, you got the Fox. Exactly, right. Exactly. All they're telling us is they tell the people to be vigilant. Can you imagine what the Homeland Security Office said right after the 7 were arrested last Friday, day before, or just yesterday? They said, don't spend a lot of time at bus stops. Try not to use mass transit if you have to. Make sure that you have a clear exit so when the chaos begins, you can escape. Yesterday, they said, don't spend a lot of time at bus stops. Try not to use mass transit if you have to. Make sure that you have a clear exit so when the chaos begins, you can escape. And, above all, Homeland Security recommends that you carry a flashlight and a whistle at all times. That's going to protect you against terrorism? No, it's not. It's only setting you up for... It's inevitable, and it's on its way.
Fine,
and that's all they want to do, sir.
I think I agree with you, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, that's what's going on in our world. I mean, you don't have to be a really intelligent person to see through it. It's so simple. How can you protect yourself with a flashlight and a whistle? If they were really and truly worried about their country being attacked by terrorists, I'm telling you, hitting that border would be an incredible long time. Not only that, but once you got into the country, you would see armed policemen and armed officers, troops on the streets. If they were really and truly trying to thwart an attack, you would see drastic measures. They're playing around with your mind. It's the attitudinal change they're after. Like smoking. It's the attitudinal change. They don't really care if you quit smoking or not. They just want to make sure that you're complicit in their new rules. It's the same thing. I can scope it right down to our garbage. There are 6 containers and 6 types of garbage. Please put the right piece of garbage in the right. It's all called put the round peg in the round hole, please. Put the square peg in the square hole. No one should think any different. Everyone has the same mindset. We all believe the same thing. And don't anyone be a free thinker. That's what it's called. That's where we're at. That's where we're headed. Spaceman, Donnie, you're on AM 640 Toronto Radio. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I'd like to comment first, since you're talking about the garbage. I would agree with most things you say, but we can't be a bunch of slobs. You'll notice that if you go to a national park or something, you don't, disturb the environment. So, I mean, I agree with you, but we can't just be a bunch of slobs either.
Well, you know what? If it's all about upbringing. If you clean up after yourself at home, you'll clean up after yourself when you get outside of your house, right?
Sure.
When you're at work, you'll treat your workplace like your home, if you're brought up correctly. If you're not, you're going to litter the parks and throw stuff in the lake when you're out there on the water, and it's going to be polluted. But you know what? It's all about us and parenting. It seems to me that they just don't want to leave anything to the parent anymore to pass on to the child. It's called the state should have the child as quickly as possible and start programming that little mind, and the parent should butt out.
For sure.
That's what it seems to me like. They're legislating when our teens, my daughter, they're legislating when my daughter can have sex with someone else. Hey, guy, you're stepping over your boundary here. I'll be telling my daughter when she can have sex, not the government. I don't need the government telling my daughter when she can have sex. That's what I'm going to put into her as a way of life and living and of our beliefs, our faith, right?
I agree.
Okay.
Let me make a comment on a couple news items.
Go ahead.
There was this item about the Indian protest, and the Indians, the news item didn't concentrate on what I was asking. The Indians had an assault on U.S. border guards.
Are we talking Aboriginals here?
Yeah, the Caledonia.
Okay,
There were some arrests because the Indians pulled some guys out of their cars, but the news item said it was U.S. border guards that they did it to.
Wow.
But the news item to me was, well, what the hell was U.S. border guards doing
in Caledonia?
Yeah. So I'd like to know what was going on there, you know. And the other comment was the subway, Toronto subway cars. They had this government thing to spend
a bunch of money,
$80 million per car to upgrade it.
Yeah, it was going to go to Bombardier. Yeah,
I'm thinking, well, you can't even recoup that in ridership in a struggling industry.
That's right.
So
why not tender it out and see who can give us the cheapest job, right?
What Illuminati company can do it?
Absolutely correct. You're on the money. Spaceman, AM 640, Toronto Radio. Back with more in a moment on A View from Space.
Expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect those of AM 640 Toronto Radio. History buffs, monarchists masticate, truth seekers cheer. He's the Spaceman with a view from space. AM 640 Toronto Radio.
Space, this is AM 640, Toronto Radio. Shows A View from Space. So, the Irish are mostly descended from the tribe of Dan, came to Ireland at different times under different names, as they migrated by different routes and arrived at different times. They picked up their new names along the way. One of those names makes your identity more obvious than the others, and that name is the Tuatha De Danann, the tribe of Dan, who was the fifth of Jacob's 12 sons, who, by the way, the tribe of Dan had a symbol, and that symbol was the eagle, the snake eater. Dan, I believe, is the bloodline of Cain, the first murderer, who also had an eagle. Or more to the point was Phoenix. But the fact remains, if you are indeed the serpent's son, the son of Satan, representing the serpent, wouldn't it be in your best interests to disguise that by having an emblem or a logo or a symbol that was a snake eater, which is what the eagle is? Now, does it make it a little more clear where America is coming from, with the eagle as their emblem? How about Nazi Germany, who used the eagle? How about Iraq, who used the eagle? How about the Roman Empire, who used the eagle? I mean, it goes on and on. This bloodline has always been on the top. the cutting edge of war machinery. Before the tribe of Dan in Ireland, known as Tuatha De Danann, there were the Numidians, or the Sons of Heaven, who came from Carthage, which was a Phoenician, a Danite settlement or sanctuary. And I told you the Phoenicians are the ones that built and planned Solomon's first temple, and built it for Solomon, who were the Danites. Known for their sailing ships and their incredible tenacity, and a warlike tribe known as the Hyksos. They were great sailors, circumnavigating. The Phoenician sailors of ancient history were mostly Israelite from the tribe of Dan, Gad, and Simeon. The Phoenician sailors were so widely respected that the Greeks actually named the North Star the Phoenician Star in honor of them. The North Star, of course, if you're navigating, does not move. Gibraltar was and is today populated by Israelis, Gadites, or Galileans, as they were called in Geoffrey Keaton's book, The General History of Ireland. The Gibraltarians are cousins of the Irish. Proof that the Gadites, or the Galileans, the 8th tribe of Israel, came there and were trading with the Danans, the 5th tribe. And also proof from archaeologists who have found and dated the remains of the Gibraltar ape, the Barbary macaque of Navan Fort, Armagh, dated back to the Iron Age, which is the period where Jeremiah and Tia Tethi came via Gibraltar to Ireland with the Ark of the Covenant. After the Tuatha De Danann came, there were various times different immigrations of Danites under the name Milesians, the sons of Mil, who was a Danite warrior, by the way. And of course, still later, the Danish, Vikings, and Norsemen. The Tuatha De Danann, when they hit Ireland, brought 4 magical treasures with them. They brought Dagda's cauldron. Dagda was the high king of the Tuatha De Danann, the supernatural beings who inhabited Ireland before the coming of the Celts. They also brought the spear of Luch. Luch was an Irish deity represented in mythology texts as a hero and a high king of the distant past, ancient times. He was known as the Long Hand for his skill with a spear or a sling, much like what King David used to fell Goliath. And they brought also the Stone of Fal, the Lia Fael, which is one of the 2 stones named the Stone of Destiny. And the other magical treasure was the sword of Nuada. Nuada was king of the Tuatha De Danann before they came to Ireland. They had his sword, Excalibur possibly, King Arthur's magical sword. The word Celt is the anglicized form of the Greek word Keltoi, Keltoi, which means the people who are different. And in the Bible, all 12 nations, except for the 12 tribes of Israel, are referred to as Gentiles, foreigners. So the only people who are different are Israel. The word Celt is just another word for Israelite. The Celts are part of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. In Irish mythology, the Milesians and Tuatha De Danann were the descendants of Miel Espang, the final invaders of Ireland who defeated and displaced the semi-divine Tuatha De Danann. The Irish people are a mixture of Celts, Dananns, Milesians, who were, in fact, cousins of the Dananns, and who were of the Judah Zerahite Red Hand family side. And the Danish, Vikings, and Norsemen and other Nordics are their racially cousins. The Irish Celts had 3 sacred assemblies every year at Tara, supposedly where the Ark of the Covenant is buried, along with Tia Tephi. During Beltane, Lughnasadh, and Samhain, they were assured that there was lots of corn and milk. No wars. The enjoyment of righteous laws. Comfort in every house. Lots of food. Plenty of fish in their lakes and rivers. Exactly as God guaranteed Israel in the Torah, if they kept the covenant. Also, during the Feast of Tara, the kings of Ireland used to settle the affairs of Ireland for 7 years. There's that number again. So that debts, suits, and adjustments used could not be submitted for judgment until the next feast, 7 years later, which the Torah calls the year of the I Am's release, when all debts were forgiven every 7 years. You ever heard the phrase 7 years good luck? That's where it came from. Yes, the word British is not English, it's Hebrew. Brit, meaning covenant, in Hebrew and in Welsh. Ish means man or people of, in Hebrew and English. So, putting them together, Brit, Ish, means the people of the covenant. And earlier, on A View from Space, right here on AM 640 Toronto Radio, I went through the royal family's coat of arms, the heraldic crest. It tells the whole story, as well as the Ulster flag. You'll find the red hand on the Ulster flag today, along with the Seal of Solomon.
This is A View from Space with the Spaceman, AM 640, Toronto Radio. You're listening to A View from Space with the Spaceman, exercising the right to free speech while he still can. AM 640, Toronto Radio.
Hi, it's Space. This is AM 640, Toronto Radio. Got some very interesting facts, little-known facts, that are fascinating about Iraq. Did you know that Operation Iraqi Liberation actually spells oil? Yeah. Operation O, Iraqi I, Liberation L. Very clever, isn't it? Do you know the Garden of Eden was in Iraq? I know it doesn't look like it from the pictures you're getting on TV, but that's where the Garden of Eden was. Mesopotamia, which is now Iraq, was the cradle of civilization. Noah built the ark in Iraq. The Tower of Babel was in Iraq. Abraham, the father of Islam, the father of Judaism and Christianity, was from Ur, which is in southern Iraq. Isaac's wife, Rebecca, is from Nahor, which is in Iraq. Jacob met Rachel in Iraq. And Jonah, who was living for a time in the belly of a whale, preached in Nineveh, which is in Iraq. Assyria, which is now Iraq, conquered the 10 tribes of Israel. Amos cried out in Iraq. Who destroyed Jerusalem? Babylon, which was Iraq. Daniel was in the lion's den in Iraq. Oh, and the 3 Hebrew children that were pushed into the fire, saying, "Let's see your God save you." Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were pushed into the fire in Iraq. Belshazzar, the king of Babylon, saw the writing on the wall in Iraq. And we have that phrase today, well, he saw the writing on the wall, he knew it was going to happen. That was where an imaginary hand wrote a message on a wall with Belshazzar watching. Wow. Explain that one. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, carried the Jews captive. Where? Into Iraq. Ezekiel, the one who tells us of the future, preached in Iraq. The empire of man described in Revelation is called Babylon, which was a city in Iraq. Israel, by the way, is the nation most often mentioned in the Bible, but do you know which nation is second? Iraq. But that's not the name that's used in the Bible. The names used in the Bible for Iraq are Babylon, land of Shinar, and Mesopotamia. The name Iraq means country with deep roots. Iraq is a country with deep roots, all right. Mentioned so often in the Bible. Here's why. Eden was in Iraq. Adam and Eve were created in Iraq. Satan made his first recorded appearance in Iraq. Nimrod established Babylon and the Tower of Babel, built in Iraq. The confusion of languages took place in Iraq. Abraham came from a city in Iraq. Isaac's bride came from Iraq. Jacob spent 20 years there. The first world empire, the one world government, was in Iraq. That was with Nimrod. The greatest revival in history was in a city in Iraq. The events of the book of Esther took place in Iraq. The book of Nahum was a prophecy against a city in Iraq.